right, kids, what's up, son? I'm your host, Jeffrey F. Spain here, coming at you live and hot from the Jiu-Jitsu at the Train Tracks podcast. So guess what? We're gonna pass it over to my host here today. Looks like Big James brought his cousin here, Lil Reggie. Lil Reggie.
Hey, yo, what's up, my boys? What y'all doing? You thought I was gonna drop that hard in, didn't you, son?
Oh, shit.
Hey, yo, Reggie, I told you can't be cussing, okay? You can't be cussing on the show.
Yeah, Reggie, this is, you don't wanna offend anybody.
And Reggie come here to bring the realness, though. That's what I'm here for. Keep it real.
Reggie, I'm gonna need you to quit hitting the table, okay? You shaking my cameras, you clipping my audio. That's a problem.
Hey, listen, Jeff, I don't need you talking to my cousin like you know him like that, okay? He's my cousin. He's from where I'm from, not from where you're from, which is, Virginia.
Well, I'm glad to see you remember, James. It's I'm the brown belt. You're the blue belt. Don't get choked, okay?
Damn.
Yeah. Well, so, I thought we'd come together today just to talk about a couple of different topics. So I got a couple of notes here and I just wanted to go over it because a lot of times I find in jiu-jitsu that a lot of people use the term jiu-jitsu but don't really know what it means. They just say jiu-jitsu, and that's definitely not what we're trying to do here. I'm trying to put together a thought and
Yeah, it's hard to talk in a podcast when you're trying to pretend to be somebody you're not. But what I think Jeff is trying to say is, gi versus Nogi. What's your favorite and why?
Well, me personally, I prefer jiu-jitsu because either way you do it, it's going to be good jiu-jitsu. As long as it involves jiu-jitsu, you got to make sure that everybody understands what they're here for and what the goal is. And it's jiu-jitsu in most cases.
Y'all know how I feel about the gi. Blue gi for life, baby.
We know.
I shouldn't put my hand in the shot.
No, you definitely should. You definitely should. As a matter of fact, kick his leg a couple times just to see if he'll move.
Oh, yeah. My favorite's the gi. I come in here and we talk about the no-gi sometimes, but I sound like an old lady. I'm not sure why.
So gi versus no gi, there's a lot of realism in both. So
now, Jeff, has anybody ever told you that you looked African American?
Yes, I have heard that.
And Mexican
at the same time. Yes.
And Egyptian.
And Egyptian.
And Greek. And Arabic.
It depends on who I'm standing with. So, if I'm here with, say, Mike, I'll kind of look Hispanic. If Mike moves away and James comes around, I start to look a little more African American. And, it just really depends on who I'm next to.
Not me. All black, baby.
Hell yeah.
Well, I'll be honest, Jeff. I like the different types of colored gis. Okay, I like blue. Mm-hmm. I like white. I love black.
Oh, shit! I'm trying to hold it together. The head roll is what got me. I love black.
Amen, brother.
It was Jeff all along.
Yo, what up?
Well, if I'm James and you're Jeff, who's sitting at the end of the table?
I knew it.
God you, Oscar.
But I personally love both. There's moments where I find myself training one more than the other or focused on one more than the other. They definitely require a certain level of attention, and if you're going to be a competitor, I really don't think you can be as successful as you want to be competing in both all of the time. I think you should season out which part of the year you're going to compete in the gi, which part of the year you're going to compete Nogi. And this way, even though everything from Nogi translates to gi, if you're not training grip exchanges, that affects you, right? If you're not training single leg X and Ashi variations in Nogi and leg escapes, you're not going to be training leg lock escapes so much in the gi. You're going to be training your game plan guard and stuff like that, passing grips and stuff.
Yeah, but a lot of that could get shut down before you even get to it just because of grips.
100%, So Nogi is going to be more, focused on, wrestling, escaping bad spot leg lock entanglements or putting people in those entanglements. So it's just different, it's just different. Kimura trap is a strong game in no-gi, strong strategy, Kimura grips, because in no-gi, and this is just goes back to the layman who's watching, like you can't grab any of the material in no-gi,
Purposely.
You're basically wearing board shorts or tights, and, we call them spats. I think that helps the men feel better about themselves. And then
you're wearing yoga pants.
Yeah.
You're wearing women's stretch yoga pants.
And then you've got the rash guard, or, looks like something a surfer would wear, which is cool. That's part of the appeal, I think,
Yeah. Wear your personality on your clothes.
It makes you slick, makes you hard to hold on to.
Definitely that. I'm a big time sweater. I slide out of so many positions so easy in no-gi.
Well, that's the thing. That's what makes you dangerous in no-gi, because people can't slow you down.
Yeah.
You're able to scramble more freely. And it does. It evens the playing field. If we're talking about no-gi from a beginner standpoint, some guys prefer no-gi for the sole purpose that they don't have to worry about grips, and they can just use their attributes and their will to win and come out performing pretty successfully against experienced guys.
Yeah. I know that was one thing Jeremy had mentioned when he was on here on his episode a couple months ago, that he won't even promote some people to black if you get to brown and you're missing certain parts of the game. Like, say you only do gi. Well, he's going to require you to do some no-gi stuff so that you can check that box to say, yeah, I've completed this assortment of things that need to take place before I move on to that next level.
Yeah, gi only is spending time in just only one or the other, I think, is okay, but not forever. Like eventually you're going to want to explore other things, and that's part of what keeps the sport interesting. If you're feeling like you're having a lull at blue belt and like people are recognizing your stuff, or maybe you're not feeling motivated to try new styles, well, it's like, well, let's just do no-gi, and that it's just such a culture shock to probably what you've been used to, and now you have an opportunity to fall in love with jiu-jitsu all over again.
Yeah, it's almost like having two sports for the price of one.
Yeah, it's great, man. I love it. I love ADCC events when they come out. I love IBJJF events, gi and the no-gi. I love that they're allowing heel hooks now.
Yeah, I saw my first heel hook in IBJJF. It was just nice to see it in that environment.
Now, from a spectator standpoint, I will say that people appreciate no-gi more than the gi. And I think it's for the sole purpose that really gi spectators are guys that train in the gi.
Yeah.
I think most people that watch gi jiu-jitsu championships train in the gi. But no-gi grappling can appeal to almost anybody, whether they train or not, because it looks like a UFC match, but these guys are just wrestling.
Yeah, and the pace is faster generally.
The pace is faster, and one of the biggest no-gi events that really drew in a lot of the MMA crowd to the jiu-jitsu world was when Ralek Gracie had his rematch with Eddie Bravo. And that, the second time they fought, I think it was Metamoris.
I think so.
Yeah, well, Metamoris was an amazing event led by one of the Gracies. What was his name? He's the dude that also wanted to be a rapper.
Oh, my God.
Ralek Gracie.
Ralek.
Anyway, so he runs this tournament, and all the jiu-jitsu guys are loving it. Jiu-jitsu people are loving it. It's a great event. It's a great stage to showcase the event or the sport. And but this guy is bankrupt from running these events, and he doesn't pay the athletes. And so it starts to come out the wash. I think around the time they were trying to promote a fight with Buchecha and somebody. But I remember Buchecha was like, hey, show me the money.
Show me the money.
And he couldn't do it. So,
Right.
And slowly but surely, all these people start pulling out.
But yeah, so like we said, I mean, I think the gi versus no gi both have their place, and I would never be able to choose one over the other. If something happened in the world tomorrow and I couldn't do gi jiu-jitsu anymore, I'd go straight to no gi, or vice versa. If I couldn't do no gi ever again, I'd go straight to gi. If there was something put in place that prevented you from doing one versus the other.
James, I'm going to be honest. I don't think that is a reality that we'll ever witness, you know.
Ever.
If anything, jiu-jitsu would just become illegal, period.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't be just the gi. It would just be like, hey, you're not allowed to grapple anymore. And then, of course, we would have to go underground. And
then it really
and
gets
then
fun.
Fight the man, you know. But the jiu-jitsu community is deep. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like when this whole quarantine and COVID thing hit, part of my mindset was like, shit, like you know, I was worried about me, but then I started thinking about everybody because this is a worldwide thing. I was like, man, all of the champions of jiu-jitsu and these guys that have the biggest teams in the world, some of these teams have schools and states where it was illegal to
Really?
run your business, you know, like, so they couldn't have people in the school, and yet they're still paying, you know, in some cases $20,000 a month for a building.
Yeah, and the government's not really assisting with that. It's kind of like, oh, well, you'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll
just
throw
wait
you,
it out.
They'll throw you $1,000. You know, $1,000 to hold you over for
your $2,800 a month
for a week.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, guys like Tanner the Ginger Rice. You know, he's a black belt, trains out of somewhere, but he was on the Matt Byrne podcast, which is Keenan Cornelius and Josh Hinger's podcast, which is really great if you haven't listened to it. Now, they don't update it or haven't had an episode in a while, so they're not super consistent about it, but the few episodes they did do early on were really, really good, and it's part of it's what inspired James and I to do our thing. But long story short, they had Tanner the Ginger Rice on, and he was the first jiu-jitsu guy when they put out that all these businesses have to close, that he was like, nah. He said, how about nah? He's like, I'm gonna keep my doors open for people that want to come in.
Right. I mean,
he's not making anybody come in. He's not forcing anybody. But he's like, hey, you want to come in and, you know, get your mental health right. You know, get your physical shape right. It's a lot of things that people didn't take into consideration during that whole time was like people's mental health, like shutting off from society. Yeah, I mean, nobody ever wanted anybody to get sick or hurt.
No.
And I think to think that you should just control everybody's actions in order to protect everyone is just a crazy, immature, silly thought.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to control other people's actions. You know, you're not going to control how many masks they put on, you know, and it's like, I think it's great that people enforce masks in certain parts of the town. I think it's great that people want to be safer and protect each other. But I also think that, you know, I don't want my kids to be raised in an environment where everything is just so squeaky. Bubble wrapped and you know, like sensitive, you know, and like you can't talk freely about what you're truly feeling, you know.
And that's scary because it's supposedly the land of the free, but we kind of find more and more ways to censor ourselves. That's why I enjoy doing this, because we get the opportunity to kind of talk about how we really feel, because not everybody gets that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's a place we can be honest, you know, and I don't know how much of this stuff we'll leave in here because now we are kind of getting a little deep.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't want to, if you don't speak up, then you don't know what might happen if you don't. You know, like choosing not to speak up is also an action.
Yeah.
You know, when you choose to not act, it could adversely affect things. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Jiu-Jitsu by the Train Tracks. I'm your co-host, Jeff Spain. This is your host, James Williams. If you Want to leave any suggestions or things you'd like to see on the show, or maybe a guest you want to have on, email us. Instagram links below. Don't forget to share with your friends. We want to see this grow. If it doesn't grow, we're going to stop doing it. That's what Jeff said, not me.
He's really in it. He's all the way in it. Hey, and something else. We're coming up with some shirts that we'll probably put together as a sell through a Patreon account or something like that. So if you got some ideas, stuff you'd like to see, let us know. We've got a couple that we'll be putting together and probably be putting out here pretty soon. So keep an eye out for those. Feel free to buy 1,000.
Cool jiu-jitsu shirts that you have never seen before.
Yes.
Not enjoy a choke or what's the Star Wars one? Arm bars.
Arm bars, or may the force be with you type
they're cool,
shirts.
don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but it's time for a change. It's time for a new wave of jiu-jitsu lingo and inside jokes on a t-shirt. And you know what? We're going to give them to you.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's stuff that
Well, we
we
won't
say
give them to
all.
you.
You're not getting them free.
You're not getting them free, but
You will have to pay.
You will have access to them, which will
But
be
buy
cool.
yourself and your family some. And it's stuff that we say all the time that just makes sense on a shirt.
Yeah, and follow us on Instagram for when that pops, and then also we'll start a store here on the YouTube channel as well.
Yep. Before we go, Oscar, you got anything you want to close us out with?
Well, James, it's nice that you've asked. Although I'm British by origin, I didn't mind playing Reggie because we all need to practice more acceptance of different cultures and embrace acting as if we understand each other on that level of human and human. And with that, I bid you adieu. Oscar, that was some,
that was
some pronoun-
pretty intense.
That was some man.
Good job. Very good job ending. All right. Signing out. Thanks, folks. See y'all next week.